Good day everyone, especially to you ma'am. So this is my report. Historical Sociological Pieces. Convention on the Rights of the Child, UNESCO. What is the importance of historical foundation of education in developing our educational today? So, it provides identity and shows us models of good and responsible behavior as well as teaching us how to learn from the mistake of others. History helps us understand how society can change and develop. If we don't teach our children to connect with history, then the consequence for our society could be disasters. Sociological basis of education. Education takes place in any society constituted of individuals. It is a social process and has a social function as well as relevance. A school is created by the society and the society is shaped and molded by school. Thus, education is both a cause and product of society. It originates in the society and must fulfill the needs of inspiration of the society. There is thus an intimate relationship between education and society, and modern education has twofold function. It must help individual development as well as social progress. Convention on the Rights of the Child. The Convention on the Rights of the Child, CRC, is the most and universal accepted human rights instrument ratified by every country in the world. The Convention incorporates the full range of human rights, civil, political, economic, social, and cultural rights of children into one single document. The Convention was adopted by the UN General Assembly on 20 November 1989 and entered into force in September 1990. The Convention outlined in 41 articles the human rights to be respected and protected for every child under the age of 18 years. Article 1. Definition of a child. In Article 1, the concept of a world child was defined. It was stated in this article that anyone who is under 18 years of age is considered a child. In Article 2, non-discrimination. In Article 2, it was stated that all the rights of this convention must be applied to all children regardless of their status, gender. In other words, there is no exemption. The children must be protected from any types of discrimination, and this is the responsibility of the state. And Article 3, best interest of the child. In Article 3, the interest of the child is the most priority, whether undertaken by public or private social welfare institutions and other state parties. They must ensure the child protection and care as is necessary for his or her well-being. Article 4, implementation of rights. In Article 4, it was stated that state is obliged to undertake all appropriate legislative, administrative, and other measures for the implementation of the rights. In this convention, in other words, the state should bring the rights of the convention into reality. Article 5, parental guidance and the child evolving capacities as he or she grows. In Article 5, the rights and responsibilities of any person who is part in upbringing of the child must be respected by the state, but only if it is an appropriate manner. Article 6, survival and development. In Article 6, it is the duty of the state to ensure the survival and development of the child by recognizing that every child has an inherent right to life. Article 7, name and nationality. In Article 7, it was stated that every child has the right to be registered, to have a name from birth, and to be granted a nationality. Additionally, the child has the right to know and be cared for his or her parents. In the Article 8, preservation of identity. In Article 8, states parties undertake to respect the right of the child to preserve his or identity, including nationality, name, and family relation. Article 9, separation from parents. In Article 9, the states parties shall ensure that a child shall not be separated from his or her parents against their will. In other words, they have the right to live with his or her parents. In addition, state parties shall respect the right of the child who is separated from one or both parents, to maintain personal relations and direct contact with the both parents on a regular basis, except it is contrary to the child's best interest. In Article 10, family reunification. In Article 10, in accordance with the obligation of state parties under Article 9, application by a child or his or her parents to enter or leave a state party for the purpose of family reunification shall be dealt with state in a positive and human manner. In Article 11, illicit transfer and non-return of child from abroad. In Article 11, state parties shall take measures to combat the illicit transfer and non-return of children abroad. In Article 12, the child's opinion. In Article 12, state parties shall assure the child who is capable of forming his or her own views the right to express those views freely in all matter affecting child, the views of the child being given due weight in accordance with the age and maturity of the child. In Article 13, freedom of expression. In Article 13, the child shall have the right to freedom of expression. This right shall include freedom to seek, receive, and impart information and ideas of all kinds. Article 14, freedom of thoughts, conscience, and religion. In Article 14, state parties shall respect the rights of the child to freedom of thought, conscience, and religion. In Article 15, freedom of association. In Article 15, state parties recognize the right of the child to freedom of association and to freedom of peaceful assembly. Article 16, protection of privacy. In Article 16, the child has the right to the protection of the law against such interference or attacks. Article 17, access to appropriate information. In Article 17, state parties recognize the important function performed by the mass media and shall ensure that the child has access to inform and material from a diversity of national and international sources. In Article 18, parental responsibilities. In Article 18, state parties shall take all appropriate measures to ensure that children of working parents have the right to benefit from child care service and facilities for which they are eligible. In Article 19, protection from abuse and neglect. In Article 19, state parties shall take all appropriate legislative, administrative, social, and educational measures to protect the child from all forms of physical or mental violence, injury or abuse, neglect or negligent treatment, maltreatment or exploration, including sexual abuse. In Article 20, protection of child without families. In Article 20, state parties shall, in accordance with their national laws, ensure alternative care for such a child. In Article 21, adoption. In Article 21, state parties ensure that the adoption of a child is authorized only by competent authorized who determine in accordance with applicable law and procedure, and on the basis of all pertinent and reliable information, that the adoption is permissible in view of the child's status concerning parents, relatives, and legal guardians. In Article 22, refuge children. In Article 22, state parties shall take appropriate measures to ensure that a child who is seeking refuge status or who is considered a refuge in accordance with applicable international or domestic law and procedure shall, whether accompanied by his or her parents or by any other person. Article 23, children with a disability. In Article 23, state parties recognize that a mentally or physically disabled child should enjoy a full, decent life in conditions which ensure dignity, promote self-reliance, and facilitate the child's active participation in the community. In Article 24, health and health services. In Article 24, state parties shall pursue full implementation of this right, and in particular shall take appropriate measures. In Article 25, periodic review or placement care settings. In Article 25, state parties recognize the right of child who has been placed by the competent authorized for the purposes of care, protection, or treatment of his or her physical mental health. In Article 26, social security. In Article 26, state parties shall recognize for every child the right to benefit from social security, including social insurance, and shall take the necessary measures to achieve the full realization of this right in accordance with their national law. Article 27, growing up free from poverty. In Article 27, state parties recognize the right of every child to a standard of living adequate for the child, physical, mental, spiritual, moral, and social development. In Article 28, education. In Article 28, state parties recognize the right of child to education, and with a view of achieving this right progressively and on the basis of equal opportunity. In Article 29, aim of education. In Article 29, state parties agree that the education of the child shall be directed. In Article 30, child of minorities or indigenous peoples. In Article 30, in those states in which ethnic, religious, or linguistic minorities, or person of indigenous origin exists, a child belonging to such a minority or whose indigenous shall not be denied the right. In Article 31, leisure, recreation, and cultural activities. In Article 31, state parties recognize the right of the child to rest and leisure, to engage in play and recreational activities appropriate to the age of the child, and to participate freely in cultural life and the arts. In Article 32, child labor. In Article 32, state parties the right of the child to be protected from economic exploration and from performing any work that is likely to be hazardous or to interfere with the child education or to be harmful to the child health or physical, mental, spiritual, moral, and social development. In Article 33, drug abuse. In Article 33, state parties shall take all appropriate measures including legislative, administrative, social, and educational measures to protect children from the illicit use of narcotic drugs and psychotropic substances as defined in the relevant international treaties, and to prevent the use of children in the illicit products and trafficking of such substances. Article 34, sexual exploitation. In Article 34, state parties undertake to protect the child from all forms of sexual exploitation and sexual abuse. And Article 35, cell trafficking and abduction. In Article 35, state parties shall take all appropriate national, bilateral, and multilateral measures to prevent the abduction of, the sale of, or traffic in child for any purpose or in any form. In Article 36, other form of exploitation. In Article 36, state parties shall protect the child against all other forms of exploitation prejudicial to any aspect of the child's welfare. In Article 37, torture and deprivation of liberty. In Article 37, every child deprived of his or her liberty shall have the right to prompt access to legal and other appropriate assistance, as well as the right to challenge the legality of the deprivation of his or her liberty before a court or other competent, independent, and impartial authority, and to be prompt decision on any such action. In Article 38, armed conflict. In Article 38, in accordance with their obligations under international humanitarian law to protect the civilian population in armed conflict, state parties shall take all feasible measures to ensure protection and care of children who are affected by an armed conflict. In Article 39, rehabilitative care. In Article 39, state parties shall take all appropriate measures to promote physical and psychological recovery and social reintegration of a child victim of any form of neglect, exploration, or abuse, torture, or any form of cruel, inhuman or degrading trait or punishment or armed conflict. In Article 40, Administration of Juvenile Justice. In Article 40, state parties recognize the right of every child aligned as accused of or recognized as having infringed the penal law to be treated in a manner consistent with the promotion of the child's sense of dignity and worth. And the last one is Article 41. Respect for existing standard. In Article 41, nothing is the present convention shall affect any provision which are more conceived to the realization of the rights of the child and which may be contained. So guys, all the article is so very understandable naman, di ba? Pag kanato sagud tanawon niyang kuan, every article is masabtan sa nato daw na niyang mga needs gayud para yung mga iso na under ng 18 years of age na kinahanglan tagaan sila ng matarong na pag-atiman or kuan, tagaan ng madena pansin or dapat respetohon kay wa pa man silang sa tama na edad. So kinahanglan pa nila ng alalay para samtang nagtaas yung edad nila is masayad silang daw na niyang tama, daw na niyang mali, daw lang silang dapit daw. O na niyang dapat nila lang himuon, tapos ang di nila dapat himuon. So, tanan ng article na iyan sang kuan is gabi ka kuan sabotable. Kung basahan na nato isa-isa, madali sa nato masabtan na. Daunan nito, yung unang pasabot yan, every article. So, let's proceed to UNESCO. Niniisab, grabe sa meaning kasi understandable na meaning ng UNESCO. So, let's proceed to the 4 pillar of education. Learning to know, learning to do, learning to live together, learning to be. Learning to know, to provide the cognitive tools required to be better comprehend the world and its complexities and to provide an appropriate and adequate foundation for future learning. Learning to do, to provide the skills that would enable individuals to effectively participate in the global economy and society. Learning to live together, to expose individuals to the values implicit within human rights, the democratic principles, intercultural understanding and respect peace in all levels of society and human relationship, to enable individuals and societies to live in peace and harmony. Learning to be, to provide self-analytical and social skills to enable individuals to develop to their fullest potential psycho-social effectively as well as physical for all-round complete person. So, sang four pillars of education is every sa isab explanation. Tanan ng kuan is exact sa isab sang photo or image na i-insert yan siyan. Doonan niyang meaning ng 4 pillars of education. Gabi, dagiyod kasabotable, understandable yung kanak report everyone. So, I think no need ako i-explain one by one kay grabe. Yaka-insert naman gud tanan yang explanation sa every image or every word, every sang PPT ko. And so mag-proceed ako. Ibasad ako lang yan. Then, gamay na, lang. Educational for All EFA Global Movement by UNESCO, aiming to meet the learning needs of all children, youth, and adults. Priority areas: early childhood education, formal basis education, and alternative learning system. Universal basic education, central goal of the Philippine EFA strategy. 4 major interventions. 1. Institutionalize every child care and development. Provide universal quality primary education. Eradicate illiteracy. Launch continuing education program for adults and out-of-school youth. And the next, the Millennium Development Goal, MDGs, are reducing by half the number of people who live in extreme poverty with little access to food and safe drinking water. Second, reducing death in mother and children below 5. 3. Making primary education accessible to all for reducing gender disparities, providing access to reproductive service. 6. Pursuing national strategies for sustainable development. 7. Reversing environmental resource losses. And 8. Developing partnership. And the next one is child-friendly school system. 1. Gender-sensitive and not discriminating. 2. Children-centered, imparts quality learning and encourage children to participate in school and community activities. 3. Promote good health practice and behaviors and guarantees that school premises are safe and clean. 4. Has the best interest of children in mind and seek to provide an environment that is safe, secure, and home away from home. Works closely with children, families, and engage the support and interactions of community. So, ngini tanan gayud everyone. So, ngini tanan gayud everyone. Turot ng kanak ay turot ng kuan ng report ko is grabe ka understandable. So, kung kanato basahon yan isa-isa is madali silang isab nato yan masabtan. Dili lang nato sa pakuan daw na nito mga rules or mga kuan na kinahanglan nato i-apply or kinahanglan nato kung anong sang every child na makuanta kay ngini na kuan is ngini na report is focus kay ginisang daon-ono ka mag kuan sang mga iso na gapasingod pa lang sang mga butang na kinahanglan nilan ka sayudan or katigaman. So that's all and thank you so much.